Hey everybody, happy Friday. I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a really great Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate. We got something special just for you. Okay, let me get to the comment section. Hi Deborah. Hi Adon. Okay, people are starting to come in. It always takes Facebook like an extra 3 minutes to actually send the notification out. So usually I'm just like sitting here like just waiting for people to come in. Can you guys let me know if you can hear and see me okay? Oh, thanks. Thank you. This was my Christmas present, kind of from me, but also from my husband. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, I want diamonds. He's like, okay, go pick something out. And I'm like, okay. So I went and found the most gaudy thing that I could find. And I showed it to him, and I'm like, I want this. You know, like halfway kidding, but halfway not really kidding. And he's like, okay, buy it. And I'm like, okay. So it's not real diamonds. It's not real diamonds. It's, what are they called? Swarovski? I can never pronounce it. Let me... Swarovski. So I cannot pronounce that word, but it's whatever. It's the crystals, and then I'll have to show you guys the mentorship program. Got to see it because I put a really good close-up picture of it, and it's actually got like different gemstones in it, like precious stones. It's got the mane and the tail is made out of mother of pearl, I think. Okay, Susan's here, Mario's here, Vivian's here, Celeste is here, Shane is here, Diane is here, Lisa's here, Sheila's here, Tanya's here, Swarovski, yeah. Yeah, cubic zirconium. I actually prefer, I'm a weird person, I prefer to have fake diamonds because, well, my wedding ring is real, but I personally really like the cubic zirconium and the other types of crystals because they're shinier than regular crystals, in my opinion, or regular diamonds, in my opinion. I love me some good costume jewelry. Yeah, you got it. That's what it is, Mandy. Yeah. Hi, Anna. Hi, Summer. Hi, Maria. Okay, so let's get started. Why are we here today? So when I created this group, I didn't really set it out to be a psychic hotline support group. In fact, I had just kind of, when I first started this group, I think we've been around for about 3 years, the heart-centered group. It was like a different kind of group beforehand, and then it kind of morphed into what it is today. Bella, please stop scratching at the door. She's like, but why can't I be in here with you? Why can't I be in here with you? Why does the door shut? You know how cats are. They don't like how they like the doors open so they can look in, but they don't like it shut. It's just offensive to them. So as we started this group, it was really just a group to kind of help psychics kind of get off the lines. And then I did, well, previously 2 years ago, I did a 3-part series with Charlene, Heather, and Maria, I believe. There was 4 of us. We did a 3-part series on YouTube. Didn't really gain a lot of traction for it. Nobody really, you know, we did a 3-part series. There were like 6 hours of content. Didn't get a lot of views. Didn't get a lot of interest in the psychic hotline. So we're like, okay, so we took it down, and we decided, okay, we're just going to put it into our packages and programs. Well, none of them are doing business coaching, so it's currently in the mentorship program, that additional 6 hours, and didn't really get any traction, so I didn't really put a lot of energy into it. I didn't really think that was something that was going to be, you know, popular. So a year ago, we ended up doing another workshop, which was the Make Epic Money on the Psychic Hotlines, and that was kind of like a follow-up to that additional training that we had done previously that's in the mentorship program, and that was kind of like a follow-up and like just talking about updates and things like that. We didn't realize when I say going viral, that video went viral in comparison, not like, 2 million hits viral, but I mean viral to the point where it was really, really popular. If you look at it, there's like probably 4,000 or 5,000 views on that video right now. And that's a lot of people, that's a lot. And so we were just like, we were kind of mystified by this. We were like, why all of a sudden is it popular now? I don't know why. It just, just people flocked to that video. It might have had something to do with the title, because previously we were just talking about like, how to work on the psychic hotlines, but we actually titled it How to Make Money, Epic Money off the Psychic Hotlines. And then that actually started getting people's attention. And then the floodgates were open. And then we broke the internet, and, tons of lines shut down, applications, because we were forwarding so much business to them. I mean, it was just like incredible, the response that we got, right? And most of you are saying, yeah, I found you through that video, right? And that most people who come into this group that I ask, one of the questions I ask is, how did you find out about me? Or how did you find out about my work or this group? And I would say probably 80 to 90% of people say make epic money on the psychic hotlines. And so it's just continually a source of, leads for me and getting people into this group, which is amazing. Now, I haven't really put out any trainings on it since then. I was in talks with the other ladies on doing trainings on it. That kind of fell apart for various reasons. The number one reason is because we're all very busy. And so trying to get 4 people scheduled at the same time to be able to do a workshop or webinar for free, mind you, is extremely difficult. And so we haven't really put out anything new. And my focus as a business coach is really the other side of the psychic hotlines. When, you're ready to get off of them, when you've had enough, and then I can teach you how to market your own business through the mentorship program and things like that. That's really where my expertise is. As far as I know, the other ladies are still, majority of their income comes from the psychic hotlines, whereas I've shifted off of the psychic hotlines as of 2016. I really only log on when I want to buy like a purse or a pair of shoes or an expensive necklace, or I consider the psychic hotlines like now like my play money. Like if I wanted to go on vacation or something, I would log on the psychic hotlines for like Friday, Saturday, Sunday one weekend, make $400 or $500, and then I would have money for my trip, right? So it's just, for me right now, it's just like, I'm just being completely transparent and being honest about this right now, because a lot of the reason why I asked you guys in the thread yesterday was non-hotline specific information. It's because I have a wealth of information and education to share with you about how to navigate the psychic hotlines in general. But as far as like how to do specific things on specific lines, I'm going to be honest, I'm really not on a lot of them. I really only spend time. I have a Keen account and I have a Zodiac account, and that's pretty much it as far as I know. I'm not even on Purple Ocean anymore. I'm not on a random anymore. So the question's like, how do I do this specific thing on this specific platform? I'm probably not the person to ask for that. That's probably more like a question for the actual group. So I just wanted to like explain why I'm not taking questions about specific hotlines, because I did get some questions about that. The truth is, I'm probably not going to have the answer for you, but I can help you in general in a more collective way about how to use the psychic hotlines and, the different like formats that you can use: video, phone, chat, recorded video, recorded audio, things like that. And I can definitely help you with pricing. I can help you with mindset. I can help you with how to talk to clients, client retention, and things like that. So that's really where I'm going to focus today. Does that make sense with everybody? Susan says, that's actually the first time I saw you. Really? Oh, the first one. Yeah. Pin money. Right. So let's talk about what the psychic hotlines are, because we get new people into this group every week. I probably add anywhere between 10 and 20 people every week into this group that are just coming off of that training. We see it in the group all the time, like, what are the best lines for new beginners? Or I'm thinking about applying. These are things we see like every single day posted. So some things in the very beginning, like what I'm going to talk about now, is kind of probably stuff you already know. So just bear with me for the next like 2 to 3 minutes or so while I kind of bring everybody else up to speed. And then we're going to go more into like the questions that you guys actually asked and want answers on, okay? So the psychic hotlines, if you don't know what the psychic hotlines are, hi Pamela, good to see you. I see you liking and hearting. So the psychic hotlines are more or less like an online virtual agency. Back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s, they were actually call centers where you would actually go to work, much like the adult service phone lines and chat lines and things like that. So back, 20, 30 years ago, these were actual call centers in which you would clock in, you would perform a job, you would have a cubicle, you would be with 20, 30, maybe 50 other, mostly women. It was mostly a job that women took, and still that's kind of true today. There's very small percentage of men that are, our industry is a very female-dominated industry. But I think that I don't think that that's really like because that women are better at it or more suitable for it. I think it's mostly just out of necessity, because the psychic hotlines are opportunities for like stay-at-home parents or people on disability and things like that. So I think it's more of a matter of why it's a female-dominated industry. It's because it's just more about the circumstance and the convenience of what the psychic hotlines provides and the traditional roles in our society, right? We're kind of getting away from a lot of that. I see more men coming into this industry all the time. And if you go look on the psychic hotlines, you're going to see a good probably 20 to 30% men to probably 70 to 60%, 70 to 80% women, kind of depending on the line. But we're seeing more and more of a diversity that's coming into this, which is really cool in my opinion, because it's kind of bringing us in. It's interesting if you've watched this as long as I have. Like if you remember the Miss Cleo commercials, like, back in the 2000s, So I've been watching the psychic hotlines evolve for like the last 20 years or so. And so it's just really interesting to see it go from a call center that is mainly like, hires women, and then transform into, now that we have the internet and we can work on the cloud and things like that. And now it's more like a virtual agency, right? But it's also a place that is its own entity as well, which is really interesting too, and how that's going to change. So, I kind of foresee, I was actually having a conversation with one of my clients about this. I'm not going to say her name because I don't know if I'm allowed to share this information, like with her name attached to it or not. But I have one of my students who just bought her own psychic hotline, and she spent, multiple 5 figures on it to get it going and things like that. And we were talking about how probably the next move, the next big evolution of the lines is probably going to be people who are going to want to start offering like careers and not just independent contractor work. Independent contractor work is really popular because most of these psychic hotlines are overseas. Why they're overseas is because they're very, very strictly regulated. There's regulated the same way as gambling, tobacco, alcohol, any type of like, what do they call it? Like a leisure tax or convenience type of business or something like that. I can't remember the actual word for word description of what it's supposed to be called. But it's in that same boat of like gambling and alcohol and cigarettes and things like that. It's very, very, very regulated and restricted. And also, although, I live in the United States of America, and although, the Western world is Europe, North America, United States of America, Australia, the Western kind of world is more open to this sort of thing, it's still considered highly taboo. And so, especially in our culture right now, whereas in, the Eastern cultures, divination, spirits, ancestor worship, spirituality, these are all very, very ingrained, culturally accepted ideals. And so, it's easier, in my opinion, for companies to set up overseas where they're not going to be, regulated as much as a U.S. or North American business would be, which I consider, when I talk about U.S., I consider Canada and U.S. kind of the same thing, because their laws and accounting and taxes and business regulation is very, very similar, right? So what are psychic hotlines? Psychic hotlines now, today in 2018, 2019, they're not call centers anymore. There are some call centers. Those are a little bit different. They're not as popular as they once were. And if you do spot a psychic hotline that is a call center, I would say don't work for that place, because typically speaking, they pay you very, very little. They have unsavory business practices, and that's just a general statement. It's not like every single business that is a call center for psychic hotlines is a bad business, but typically speaking, most of those types of businesses pay very, very little, and they're more like a sweatshop, okay? It's kind of like the, I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with like adult service kind of call centers and things like that. You have like the webcam girls and things like that. It's all kind of like in a similar, it's not the same field by any stretch, but we use the same platforms to conduct our services. So that's why there's a lot of crossover. So another thing too is that a lot of the psychic hotlines are owned by adult service networks. For example, Keen owns Night Flirt. Aranum owns Live Jasmine too. So there is some crossover there, and that's why you're going to find that it's really regulated, and that's also why you're going to find that there is a lot of stuff that you will see in the adult world that is like kind of transfers over to the psychic hotline world. And it's really interesting if you are, you know, like a sociologist and you kind of just take an observer kind of role and kind of look at it and see the interesting parts of how that all kind of interconnects. But I found that fascinating. I'm a sociologist personally. I like to study people. I like to study cultures and, you know, things like that. So it was really interesting for me personally to learn that and then to kind of see how that all kind of plays out together. Yes, we're similar. Jennifer's, how would you know if it's a call center? Yeah, in person. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you would actually go to a job, you have a cubicle, you have a computer, and usually they'll have like some sort of script process that you can use. And that's where most people, kind of general people, I mean, not like us people, but I mean like general people, just regular people off the street, like associate psychic hotlines as scams because they're used to the stereotypes and the stuff that was 20 years ago where, you know, we had the call centers and we had the scripts that, you know, people had to read and things like that. It's not like that anymore. And actually, I hope, you know, another good workshop would probably be to do like the myths of psychic hotlines, you know, and like some of the tall tales and legends and what people assume about them and kind of talking about how that's really just not really true anymore. In fact, speaking on scripts very briefly, scripts are very much a big no-no. If you are found to be using scripts on psychic hotlines, they will fire you. Any legitimate psychic hotlines will not ask you to use a script, will not suggest that you use one, or will not provide any for you, unless it's just to welcome a customer in, right? Because that's different. That's like a greeting, right? That's not like actually giving the reading. So, you know, legitimate psychic hotlines will not typically be an in-person job, and they will typically not give you scripts or anything like that to use, okay? So that's a big thing. So psychic hotlines today, they are more like an agency. They provide the clientele for you. They provide the platform for you to sell your, conduct your readings on, and they provide the marketing for you. They provide the clients. And so one thing I wanted to talk about something about commission rates. So we've talked about, let me make sure I'm going through my list here because you know this. And by the way, we're going to try to fit in as much as I possibly can. I have the Psychic Circle tonight, which is the development program that I run, which is going to be like another 2 hours. So I'm not going to try to like stay here for 4 hours talking about all of this. So if we have to, you know, split this into multiple sessions, we'll do that, and that's fine. So if I don't answer your questions today, please don't worry about that. I will get to it inevitably, you know. Okay, so Christy says, does that also apply to the lines that send you traffic and you work from home? What specifically? The scripts or... Pamela says, yes, you've looked into the platforms, and they are the same platforms. Same with if you phone into a tech company to fix your appliance or computer. Yeah, pretty much. Any type of remote service is all going to use the same kind of software. No alert again. I've got it turned on for all alerts. I'm so sorry, Kimberly. Sorry, but you're here now. What are the psychic hotlines? They're basically a marketing agency for you. Okay. Why are the psychic hotlines are a great opportunity? So, you know, first, it's just this mixed bag because some of you are like, oh my God, the psychic hotlines are amazing. This is what I've been looking for. I get paid to practice my readings. I get to stockpile money while I'm building up my business. That's the ideal way to look at it, in my opinion. But then some of you are like, I really hate psychic hotlines. Why am I doing this? I don't want to have to do this. And so I'm not telling you to do this if it's not aligned for you. But if you are someone who is trying to get faster at your readings, like if you know that you don't really read that fast and you want to like work your psychic abilities and like really get your psychic abilities on tap and be able to like not have to do the rituals and this long drawn out process to get information, the psychic hotlines are like psychic boot camp basically. But also people, you know, who want to get paid to practice their readings in a space where they can use kind of like a little bit of anonymity where, you know, you can practice and people don't necessarily know who you are. So if you mess it up, then, oh, well, it's just, you know, psychic, whatever, your fake name on the psychic hotlines. And it's like, you don't really have to worry about, like, if you goof something up. And then, you know, there's the people that are my favorite people that are the people that are wanting to do this as a career, wanting to do this as full time, and they just need a little bit of startup capital for their business, and they need to be able to pay their bills while still doing what they want to do while building up their own clientele, right? So we're really going to be focusing on the people that like the psychic hotlines. If you don't like the psychic hotlines, don't work for them. Find something else to do. I can't really help you there. I don't really have another opportunity for you that is going to pay you as well, that is going to have a low overhead, and that is going to be as easy as simply just sitting in front of your computer with your tarot deck or whatever divination tool you use, if you even use one, log on, you don't have to get clients or anything like that. You know, yeah, we deal with some low vibe clients. Yeah, we deal with some crazy people. Yeah, we deal with some like really weird, eccentric, bizarre behavior in situations. But look, you know, if you had to make a pros and cons list of, you know, like all of the things that the hotline allows you to do and why it's such a great opportunity versus, you know, the occasional crazy person, honestly, I think we're still in the green, right? So, you know, if the hotlines don't work for you, they don't work for you. That's fine. That's okay. No big deal. But if you want to spend some time on the hotlines, this webinar is really more for you guys. Basically what I'm saying is I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you to work on the lines. That's basically what I'm saying. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, don't. I could care less. The poor pay and not as good. Oh, well, the UK lines are, I'm just going to be honest, the UK lines are a little lower paying lines. And, you know, I'm going to talk about some other lines today, Kirsty, that you might want to apply to, because the European lines are very low paying. They are the bottom of the barrel. They usually require the most hours and they pay you only, you know, like 20 to 30 US cents per minute, which is ridiculous in my opinion. I mean, that's not even like minimum wage, you know? Yeah. Kat says, I feel so lucky to be able to work on them with my children asleep. Yeah, so the psychic hotlines are an amazing opportunity for people with disabilities, with people who, you know, have children, with people who are caring for elderly parents. That's where I found myself. I don't have kids, but, you know, I had an elderly parent that I needed to take care of, and I also was laid off from a job. And, you know, I've talked about this story a million times. You can go back and listen to the Make Your Business Quick Start free 5-day challenge. I talk about my story in more depth, and you can hear kind of what led me to get myself on the lines. And most of us find ourselves wanting to work the lines because there are things going on in our environment that we need to take control of, or, you know, we're just going to keep digging ourselves into a bigger ditch. And so having to put up with the occasional crazy person is definitely something that we can work through, especially if you've been flipping burgers, or if you've been, you know, doing customer service, like an associate job where you're handling money and doing the cashier stuff, or, you know, you're doing any number of other low paying, like low income jobs. The psychic hotlines, you know, getting to stay home, work in your pajamas, and make way more than minimum wage, putting up with occasional weird people, in my opinion, you're always going to have a job, no matter what you do in life. Even when you run your own business, you're always going to have crazy people. There's no point in which you're going to just become immune. There's no magic formula that you're going to create or follow to where you're not going to have frustrations in your business. When you own your own business, problems become much bigger and much more frustrating than just a random crazy person, right? And so on the Psychic Hotlines, it's like you're kind of building your tolerance to that. You're building your tolerance to crazy. And I think personally, if you can deal with the occasional crazy person, then you can totally, move on to having your own business. But if you, but if you are severely triggered by the other people on the end of the line, we're going to talk about that today too, then maybe you should stay on the lines for a little while and build up that energetic tolerance. Because when it comes to running your own business and when it comes to the frustrations of the hotlines, they're apples and oranges. But I can tell you, running your own business is 1,000 times harder than just, difficult clients on the end of the line that you can hang up on, by the way. Sheila says, one of the problems I had was I would decide to sit and work the lines, but then they were quiet for me, which didn't fulfill the income issue. Do you have any tips for this, please? Yep, I'm going to get to the questions that I have first, and then if I don't answer you, I'll write them down and we'll do this on the next one. All customer service workers deal with less than ideal clients. Yep, I mean, if you're in customer service, if you're dealing with people, then you're going to deal with something at some point. Okay, so I've already wasted 30 minutes, so let's get into this. Why are commission rates so low? Commission rates are so low, and this really shocks people. They're like, why am I not making 60 to 70%? I'm doing all the work. I'm logging in. Yeah, that might be true, but I can tell you from having been an independent contractor literally in my entire life, 50 to 40% commission on your end is really actually industry standard. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you cut hair. It doesn't matter if you're a computer technician. That's just industry standard. That's just how it works. Why are Psychic Hotline commissions so low? Psychic Hotline commissions are so low because they spend a ridiculous amount of money every single month to market you, to market their website. So most of their revenue, of course, number one, they're a business. A business is to make profit. So don't forget that. Don't think that they're doing you a favor and getting you all these clients because they're just nice people and they just want to help you out. They are a business first and foremost. Profit is the number one thing a business does. It is for profit, okay? So that's number one. Number two is that they spend a lot of money marketing for you. I'm talking like anywhere between $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 every single month to market you. They also deal and process all of the refunds. So, and this industry is a very high risk industry for refunds and chargebacks. That's just how it is. And so most of the companies, will absorb that, or they will meet the chargebacks and refunds, or they will meet you halfway, okay? Or they will put like some type of limitation, like someone can claim up to $15 refund, but anything past that, they won't refund, something like that. You have to imagine there's thousands of people that are on the Psychic Hotlines calling every single day, thousands. Think about all per line, and then think about how many lines there are. So there's a lot of chargebacks, right? So part of that, even though you may not have a lot of chargebacks, there's still chargebacks and refunds that are out there. And so the company is absorbing this, okay? I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's right, but that's just how it is. And so they are going to be spending a lot of money on marketing, and they're going to be, in most cases, handling the refunds and the chargebacks, okay? And then they have teams that they need to pay. They have customer service teams that they need to pay. They need to pay their accountants. It's just like any normal business. There is overhead to it. So, here's the thing, how I feel about low commission rates. You are the independent contractor. You decide whether you want to enter into that contract or not. If a line is not going to be paying you what you want, go to a different line. There's different lines out there. But I can tell you in most cases, unless you are a very, very high earner, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 or more, in most cases, you're going to make anywhere on average between 30 to 40% of your total earnings just on your commission, okay? So I'm not the business. I don't make up those rules. If I had to sit and, look at their books and look at their accounting, and I could say, yes, okay, well, I see why this is, but I don't have access to that information. So I can't really tell you exactly, where they're using your money and if it's actually legitimate and fair and things like that. But what I can tell you as someone who has been an independent contractor, that just seems to be across the board. Anywhere from 30, 40 to 50% tends to be the standard for independent contractors, okay? Unless you're a high earner, unless you're hitting bonuses and things like that. Kimberly says it's a great opportunity to learn how to not trigger others people's craziness. Absolutely. The psychic hotlines will grow you as a person. The things that annoy you now after working on the psychic hotlines for a couple of years, they won't annoy you. And if anything, the things that trigger you about people on the psychic hotlines are usually things that are unhealed within you or things that you are still kind of working through on yourself. And I'm going to give a couple of examples of that. So yes, psychic hotlines gives you a backbone, Pamela says. Adon says, my doggy really loves the fact that I'm able to work from home. She's even gotten better about not barking when I have video orders. That's awesome. Hi, Jen. Good to see you. Susie says, I had one client last week that wanted to know his superpowers. Can you answer that? I could. I would definitely answer. That would be a fun reading, in my opinion. Teresa says, I didn't get an alert. Oh, sorry. You can't hang up on live calls on Purple Ocean. Well, that's dumb. Kimberly says, advertising costs a lot. It really does. And then you have to pay for ranking and SEO. Anytime you go to Google and type in psychic hotlines, those pages that show up are paying a ridiculous amount of money to show up there. Anya says, I used to sell candles to a shop. They wanted 50% of the sale price. Yeah, I mean, that's about average, because they have all of the overhead. Jennifer says, plus all the technology, hosting fees, ongoing. Most of these companies buy applications. If they have an app, they had to hire someone to develop that app. That can run a minimum of about $10,000. So, I mean, we're talking big, big, big money and advertising and development of applications and technology. Pamela says, after looking and doing my own lines, I could really understand the commission part. I would like to be able to give 40%, right? That would be ideal, to be able to give 40%. But, it's kind of crazy, the amount of overhead that it costs, to run a website like that. It's not as simple as just starting up a website, buying a domain, and it's not that simple. And I've coached many clients out of who thought they wanted to start their own psychic hotlines. I always try to coach you out of doing that because I know how much work actually and money and time goes into something like that. You're also paying these companies, stores for their established reputations. I was told that on my Purple Ocean interview for live. You have to just put the phone face down. Ah, okay. I don't know that I really agree with that, but I mean, obviously it's true. But I mean, I don't know if I agree with the not being able to leave a chat situation, because what if they are like naked or doing something illegal, or you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to remove myself from that situation. Which lines are the best for newbies and why? Okay, so it kind of depends on where you're at. Obviously, if you don't have a lot of experience, you're probably gonna like psychic hotlines that are more of recorded. So Purple Ocean is really, really good. For new beginners, it's a 3-minute video. If you're scared to be on video, well, okay, that's something you're going to have to figure out and learn. But, you can record it as many times as you want. It's only 3 minutes. It's really not that big of a deal. You just want to invest a little bit in your background. You need some type of woo-woo background. You need at the very least, you need like a tapestry or something, like a candle burning or just something. You don't want to have your bed in your background. That's a big no-no, just because that kind of encourages kind of no-no behavior from, other clients who are using it as a substitute for a different kind of hotline, if you get what I'm saying. So, you really want to have something in your background. Purple Ocean would probably be the best one to start on for new people because you can continue to re-record your video, you have time. It's not like you get entered into a chat and then you have to immediately start responding. So if you're kind of slow, Purple Ocean's good. Fortunica, Psychic Text, any of these psychic hotlines that are like text-based where it's not, and we're going to use different terms today. So we have live chat, we have live video, we have recorded video, we have phone, and then we have text. Text is SMS. So that's like, you get a moment where you get the question, then you can think about it, and then you can text the person back, and it's not like they're paying per minute. So if you're new, I would say maybe stay away from the pay per minute lines and just really focus on Fortunica, Psychic Text, or Purple Ocean, or some of these psychic hotlines where you have an opportunity to lay out the cards, think about it, meditate on it, and then do your reading. So if you're slow, focus on those. If you are comfortable with, and you have done live readings and you're comfortable with getting that information fairly quickly, then I would say if Keen is still hiring, get on Keen. The next one would be probably Zodiac Psychics. And the reason why I like these two, because, well, Keen, I like because you can block people. Keen, I like because you can do email readings and you can sell recorded audio forecasts and things like that. You can block people, and there's no 3 free minutes. So that's why I really like Keen. And it's been around for like 20 years or so. It's one of the oldest lines out there. Zodiac I like for a lot of the same reasons. I would say Keen is number 1, and then I would say Zodiac is probably number 2 in terms of earning potential. So anything below that, you have like Psychic Source, Life Reader, all of these other ones that are more regulated. They pay you more of a standard rate, and you kind of have to move up the ladder to get the higher rates, and you have to keep consistent hours. On Keen, you don't really have to keep consistent hours. On Zodiac, I mean, they say, I think it's like, 15 hours or 20 hours or something like that. It's in the spreadsheet. If you look in the pin post in the announcement section of this group, you'll find a worksheet that me and Kimberly Essex have been working on slowly but surely, and it's kind of covering some of the different nuances of all the psychic hotlines. So I would look at that and then kind of see, like, and then if you scroll over to the far right, you'll see like a note comment or note section, and we write, like, if we have, if there's any known issues or something like that with the psychic hotline, we'll write that on there so you guys can, be educated before you kind of come in. But I would say, if you're good with getting information quickly, then go ahead and apply for Keen. Go ahead and apply for Zodiac. Again, the thing that I don't like about Zodiac, really the only one thing I don't like about Zodiac is that you have to do 3 free minutes, whereas on Keen, you can opt out of that. I don't think it's fair, but if a lot of you actually applied to Zodiac while you were waiting for Keen, because from the point that I did the last workshop on the psychic hotlines, it was like a 1.5 years before they even opened up applications, right? So sometimes you're just going to have to, like, get on one, get the experience, get paid, learn how it works until the one that you actually want to get on is available to get on, okay? So don't get discouraged if you can't, like, get on the one that you really want to get on, or you get rejected the first time. Just keep going through, right? Just apply to a couple, and you always want to have at least a couple on hand. You never want to have just one psychic hotline that you're reliant on, because so many things can happen. The business could go under. I mean, they could have problems with their website. There's website glitches. Sometimes what they'll do maintenance, and they'll be down for like a day, and then that's like a whole day. You don't get to earn any money. Or, a number of things could happen. So it's never safe to just have one psychic hotline anyway. So make sure that you have at least one backup, if not 2 backups, that that you can log on if something should happen with your main your breadwinner line. And that's always good advice, because especially with what just happened with Zodiac Psychics, is I don't know if we ever got an explanation for that. I haven't really had time to investigate it myself. I've been very busy, but we just had an issue where Zodiac Psychics was like a couple weeks late on their payments. And I don't know if we ever got an official explanation of that, but that really kind of like delayed Christmas for a lot of our members. And so, stuff like that happens. Businesses change, payroll companies, they change banks, there's glitches in their third party. Sometimes it's not even their fault. Sometimes it's the fault of the third-party applications that they use, you know, and so you always want to make sure you have an additional 1 or 2 lines on hand in case something were to happen. That's what I liked about PO. I used to redo the readings over a few times before uploading. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Lynn. Thank you. I need to get another light. I'm going to get another spotlight to brighten it up a little bit more. But thank you. What are your thoughts about Psychic Source? Psychic Source is one of those ones where if you have no other option, I would say go for it. But Psychic Source, California Psychics, Hollywood Psychics, these are all ones that are very low paying, and they require a ridiculous amount of time to work on them. Adon says, Psychic text now requires you to do 20 hours live chat for several weeks before you can do text. Why is it called Psychic text then? You also have to maintain live chat hours once you are on text. That's just ridiculous. Kimberly says, Fortunica is not good for money, but so good to gain experience and confidence. Right, and so you kind of have to think, am I going for this for money or am I going for this for experience? And hopefully you'll find a good, you know, healthy balance of that, but I can't guarantee that every single line is going to be good for money and good for experience. In most cases, other than Keen, Purple Ocean, and Zodiac Psychics, any other line, or maybe a random might be included in there too, but literally any other line, it's usually either an either-or situation where it's either good for experience or it's good for money, and some of them are okay for both. Psychics.com is now paying your set price hourly for texting. You set your own price for SMS per minute update. That's awesome. That is really cool. Adon, replying to Pamela, Adon says, no cost to you. It's all through the app or laptop. I'm currently doing 4, but I have my favorites. Yeah, so I wouldn't do more than like 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Because that's just going to be too much to juggle. Okay, so we've talked about which lines are the best for newbies and why. Best decks to use on the line. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of the decks that I really like to use on the Psychic Hotlines. The first deck here is the Quick and Easy Tarot, I believe this is called. It comes in upwards and reversals, and let me see if I can find a, let me see if I can find a good example of a card. Okay, so this is the Quick and Easy Tarot, and it has, as you can see, and I've got writing all over it, and timelines and good or bad and astrology and chakras and, you know, things like that. This is my hotline deck for the most part. So I don't know if you can read that or not, but basically it has a description on the top and the bottom. Now on the top, for the Two of Pentacles, it says, great changes are in store for you. An important message or document arrives. Enjoy your work and learn from the challenges. An excellent time for new projects. Research them carefully with attention to detail. Be patient and wait for all the elements to fall into place. Pick up a project that has been put aside. Now, I don't personally use reversals on the Psychic Hotlines because I'm not trying to argue with anybody. I'm not trying to give readings that are like, quote, negative. I want to keep the Psychic Hotline readings as positive as humanly possible for me. So I don't even go into reversals. I don't go into that any type of like complexity. I will not go into it because it's like, you know, it's so hard to, in a per minute basis, it's so hard to reframe that information in a positive way and work through that. So I just try to keep it positive, upbeat, and that's really served me well to not attract like a bunch of people that have a lot of problems that they need a lot of help with, and that are going to be defensive or defiant, you know, kind of like what I talked about in that other workshop that we just did. But I use this deck all the time. Yeah, Trace says, I really encourage intuitives who want to start a reading business to do the lines because it's boot camp. Yeah, it is. You get all sorts of people and situations. It makes you grow really fast. Yeah. Quick and Easy. It's called the Quick and Easy Tarot deck. They're not there for complexity. That's exactly right, Adon. They're not there for complexity. Save the complex shadow work stuff for your other clients. Good tip to avoid reversal. I totally agree, and keep things positive. Stay away from complexities. Yeah. So this is a great deck. Now, you know, the meanings are kind of hit and miss. Again, these are just meanings that someone has, you know, put together on cards. But when you are doing the psychic hotlines and you're on for a couple hours and you have like anywhere between 5 and 20 clients within those couple hours, what I like about the cards with the words on them is that you can kind of go into trance mode and you don't have to think too hard about what you're saying. And then if you have like a deer in the headlights moment, like you're like you see a card but you're like, crap, I have no idea how this relates to the reading, then you can kind of use bibliomancy and you can kind of divine in the word. So what I will do, for example, let's say I got strength as an outcome card. Okay, it was like, is so-and-so gonna come back to me, right? And I pulled an outcome card, it was strength. And I was sitting here like, holy crap, I know tarot, but I don't know how this relates to it, and I don't have any idea of how this is working in, like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? And so I can sit here and I can just kind of go through the words, and what I do is I find the words that catch my eye. For example, I'll just kind of scan it and I'll say, okay, tolerance and compassion, those are really important. Endure adversity, right? Maintain control of the situation. Do not allow things to become a problem, right? And so I will use that kind of like as bibliomancy to kind of divine words that are located within the paragraph. And then it becomes much easier to string along. Okay, well, don't focus on it as a problem. If he does come back to you, you want to make sure that you're compassionate and that you are able to endure that adversity, that the conflict that happened between you. That sounds okay, right? I mean, that's a good enough answer as any when it comes to psychic answers. So I really like that deck. Yep, they're fast food. Psychic hotlines are fast food. I've used this deck for years and I write dates, seasons, keywords on them. Yep. Yep. Kimberly says, I get a lot of timing questions and the reversals for me mean, nope, not that day, week, or month. Yeah. So you do whatever is good for you. You do what's good for you. Once I got them to help me from switching back to from Oracle to Tarot. Yeah, and you know, some people may look down their nose at using cards like this, but I tell you what, when you're sitting there doing 100 to 200 readings every single week, I mean, come on, give a girl a break, right? I mean, why can't we use cards with words on them? Do you have to be totally tapped in and doing clairvoyant readings every single time that you're doing a reading? No, give me a break, you know? And there's nothing wrong with using something like this. Now, I want to show you a couple other decks that I really like. Okay, let me put these over here. Okay, so another deck that I really like is, say what you want about Doreen Virtue, but she made some good Oracle decks and some good tarot decks, okay? I don't like Doreen Virtue as a person, but I like her work, and that's one big part of growth is not attaching your admiration to the artist's work and not transferring that admiration to the actual artist, right? Because that's going to let you down 99.9% of the time. Very rarely do we like an artist's art and do we like them as a person. I've had to learn that the hard way a couple times when I've met famous people or quote unquote, you know, famous people in our industry too, and not just famous people in our industry, but back when I was doing hair and, you know, I met football players and NBA players and things like that. Very rarely do we like the person and the art equally, right? So you can say what you want about her, but I still use this. I still use her decks. I'm going to talk about yes or no here in just a moment. And Pamela says, yeah, and you can only come up with so many meanings for each card too. Okay, so one of the other decks that I like, this is the Archangel Power Tarot. Now, what I like about this deck is that it is empowerment oriented. Meaning, let me try to find a good card to show you. This is probably the Queen of Gabriel, which is the Queen of Fire. This is probably my favorite card in this whole deck. And under the, you see I've got writing all over here and everything. You can see under the Queen of Gabriel, we have passionate, charming, brilliant, independent. So if you need personality descriptions, you have them right there. And then another part of it has just a little bit of an empowerment saying on the bottom. It doesn't give you what the card actually means, but it gives you like steps. You can do anything, go after what you want, the ability to attract helpful people. Let me give you another one. I'll show you another one here. Okay, Three of Michael. That's the Three of Swords. Release the past. You will grow from this situation. Time heals all wounds. So some of you were asking me, how can I give helpful information? I like to use this deck to give helpful, like empowering kind of information. The Lovers. Make choices from your heart. Deeply emotional commitments. The power of love. Okay? So while this deck, if you prefer to use your own meanings, then this would be a good deck for you if you want to, you know, work some type of empowerment statement into your readings. So those of you who are not just readers, but also coaches, you would really like this deck. And they're all fairly positive, angelic messages. So, you know, you're not really going to find any type of negativity in here. And so when you do readings, generally speaking, you know, even the Three of Swords, which is supposed to be like a bad card, there's still some sort of empowering message attached to it. So that's another deck that I like. Marlene says, I have Doreen Virtue Angel cards with words on them. Yep, all of those are pretty much Doreen Virtue decks. Angel Tarot, yeah, that's another good one. The regular Angel Tarot is a really good one. Therese says, I've been hearing about that deck repeatedly, but held off because of the faces. Kimberly says, my very first deck, I read the meanings out of the book to a friend. When they flipped out, I was able to talk them down. I understand that we read out of the book was not the end of the world. Yeah, so, you know, I don't really, especially with this deck, I don't really like recommend that you type verbatim. That would be an ethical no-no. But, you know, what I do recommend is using the words to kind of scry important words that kind of come up to kind of string along your own meaning to it. That was the Archangel Power Tarot. Thank you. Thank you for letting her know. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Wait, okay, Therese, wait for them to go on sale on Hay House. Oh, Pamela, you got 2 of those decks because, or 4 of them, because you took her course. I took her course too back in the day. Okay, Susan says Akashic Record Tarot is awesome too. Check that one out. Okay, another one that I really like, and this is, it's tarot. I mean, it is modeled after tarot, but it's a little bit different, okay? This is the Gentle Guardian Angel, the Guardian Angel Tarot, I think, by Doreen Virtue. And it has kind of like this Victorian, and as you can see, I write on all my decks. I'm, whatever, you know, I don't care. Okay. So this is the 8 of Thought, which is the 8 of Swords. It says, you may feel as though you're restricted by the circumstances that you find yourself in. Remember, this is the girl with the 8 swords around her. But that's an illusion. Make a promise to yourself to refuse to be stuck in a situation that's making you unhappy. Don't wait for someone to come to the rescue when you can free yourself. So again, this is another one of those decks where if you like to work life coaching and empowerment, if you want to sneak a little bit of that into it, and you already know the meanings, and you're not like you're not a clairvoyant reader where, like, you know, you have to look at the actual images to get psychic information. Like, I don't read tarot psychic. I mean, I do, but I really don't. I know the numerology, the astrology, the elements and things like that. If you know all of that, then you can read with just a regular, you know, playing card deck. You don't need images. But this is a deck where if you are a intuitive reader, meaning that, or a pictorial reader, you may struggle with this deck. So I would only really use this deck if you are completely confident in your ability to, you know, the cards backwards and forwards, and you're not like, you can just say out a card and name any card. I can tell you what's on it. You know, I just done that many readings. I've been doing this so long. Like, let's say for the Three of Emotion, which is the Three of Cups. So you got all these little cherubs kind of playing, and it is reminiscent of, you know, but not really. It's definitely its own thing. It's more of like a tarot oracle deck, I would say. It says, for the Three of Emotion, which is the Three of Cups, wonderful news is on the way. This could mean announcements, engagements, pregnancies, births, graduations, new friends will be made, communities of like-minded people, exciting new beginnings or happy endings are just around the corner. So again, this is one of those decks where, you know, it keeps things positive, but this is something, I mean, you could just use it as an oracle deck, but like I said, if you want to read tarot and you read tarot pictorially, the Gentle Guardian Angel Tarot might not be exactly be for you. And so I would probably stick with either the Quick and Easy or the Archangel Power Tarot or your regular Archangel Tarot. Or no, what is it called? Just the regular Angel Tarot by Doreen. I get in a lot of trouble because people say I give advice instead of answers, even though I clearly give them answers. I'm backing off of elaboration. Most liked it, but those don't really mess up. Yeah, and that's the thing is, you know, well, I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit too. Okay. Hi, Anna. Good to see you. Okay, let's see, best decks rates. Okay, so for chat, video, and phone. So the text ones, you can't, I mean, some of them will allow you to. If you can, I wouldn't accept less than $2-3 per text personally. For live chat, you're probably looking around $3.99 to $4.99 standard average right now. Recorded video readings, you're probably looking at, Purple Ocean kind of sets the precedence on this because there's really not another line that kind of lets you do recorded video kind of as good as Purple Ocean does. And I want to say they pay you anywhere between $4 and $6 for a 3-minute video. But, you know, if you're doing recorded videos, you know, if that's kind of like, there's not a lot of options out there, so you kind of have to take what you can get. Live video, like I said, like probably anywhere between $3.99 and $4.99. Phone typically starts around $2.99 and up. Live chat typically starts around $2.99 and up. I would consider someone who is brand new to the lines. If you're brand new, you have no reviews, set your price around $1.99, get your first 10 reviews that are good, and then bump your price up to $2.99. I mean, anything less than $2.99, especially with like site fees and all of these, you know, payment fees that you have to pay, direct transfer fees or PayPal fees and things like that, you want to make sure that you're bumping it up a little bit. Your take home, I would not personally accept any less than $1 to $2 per minute take home. Personally, I'm up to around, I kind of go between $4.99 and $6.99, just kind of depending on the day, the time, the season. If it's Valentine's Day and I know that people are going to be on there, then I'm going to be bumping my price up really, really high. If it's a slow, you know, weekend or something, I might go down to $4.99 for live chat, but I don't go below that. That's after being on there since 2012 or so, okay? So I would say, you know, after at least 10 reviews, good reviews, you want to bump your price up to $2.99, and then I would say, you know, every like 6 months, go ahead and give yourself a $1 raise. Most people will cap around $4, $5, $6.99. Some of the higher end psychics, they'll charge, you know, anywhere from like $10 a minute to, I've even seen up to $20 a minute. And you can absolutely do that. But keep in mind that you're going to have people that here's an interesting thing about the hotlines, is that anything like $2 and under is going to attract a quote unquote bad, unideal type of client. Anything above the $5 to $6.99, $5 or $6.99 to like $7 to $8 a minute is going to attract, again, a different type of bad client, which is the instant gratification client, which wants the answers right now, right now, right now, and they're in a hurry because they're paying you a ridiculous amount of money to give that answer really quickly. So if you can get yourself somewhere in the middle, like anywhere between $2 and let's say like $6, somewhere in between that space, that's kind of like the magical money pot space where you're going to get clients, but then you're also going to get a better type of client too. So like I said, again, anywhere between like $2 and like $6 per minute, depending on which medium you're on, whether it's live chat, live video, or recorded video, things like that. Video is always going to be selling for more, and then for priority wise, it goes video is at the top, video is king always, then phone, then text chat, then live chat, I mean. So live chat, $2, $3, $4, live video, $3, $4, $5, okay? So somewhere in between that space. Does that make sense? Kimberly. I was getting good that I could picture regular playing cards in my head and do that for readings. Sometimes when doing medium rooms, I get a picture. I do that too. I do that too. That's a really great trick that you can do too. Like if you really want to blow someone away and you just want to give them a reading, just quiet your mind and just see a spread in your mind and just go for it. It's a lot of fun. Kimberly says, I pepper my messages with a lot of according to the tarot, or the Three of Cups advises, or the Six of Wands tells me. That's what I do too, personally. Do I have a list up including this price list? Not really. I mean, do you really need one? I mean, $2, $3 live chat, $4 or $5 video. I mean, that's pretty. Adon says, I was afraid to raise and actually saw no decline. Yeah, that's pretty normal. Brandy says, my mantra for charging what I want is I can do this at this price and be successful. Yeah, and that's really what it is. I mean, for the longest time, I really was like, I don't deserve $3.99 per minute. You know, like I'm not good enough. And let me tell you, I have bought, every year I buy my mom like some sort of like really expensive psychic reading. Like this year I got, or no, last year I got her like a $400 mediumship reading with a really famous psychic. And when she called me after she had got done, she was like, Christina, that was the crappiest reading that I've ever had in my entire life. Like I've paid $20 and had better readings. So like I don't want anybody to equate that you have to be like this ungodly type of like always right 100% accuracy to charge higher end prices. It all comes down to what you think you're worth, right? That's the only thing that is actually stopping you from charging more. It's not your certifications, it's not your knowledge, it's nothing more than how much you think you are worth. Adon says, it also matters how many more readers are available. I do well on PG because I do it at 3 a.m. Yeah, so you have there's less competition. Pamela says, it was coming to me on the radio. Oh, yeah, that's cool, too. And Pamela, we're going to do something like that tonight at the Psychic Circle, too, so that'll be fun. Okay, I need to check the time. We've been here for an hour, and we are nowhere near completing this list of questions. So this will probably end up being a 3-parter. But I'm going to keep going. We'll keep going because there's still a couple things that I want to talk about, too. So best times to log in. Best times to log in are Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. If you work any customer service job, then you know Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays are big money days. Friday nights, Saturdays are big money days. Now, and let's first break it down to seasons, okay? Because we're going to break it down to seasons, and then we'll break it down to months and things like that. So let's talk about seasons first, okay? So Halloween through end of September through the middle of September to about the end of December, with a short lull in between there around Thanksgiving. That's going to be a really busy season. That's going to be a very, very busy quarter, okay? Because you have Halloween, it's the time, you know, it's just where culturally we're more open, accepting, curious about this sort of thing. Valentine's Day, so like then you'll get a little pocket for January, which is like your New Year's readings, like predictions for the new year. And then you'll have February. You'll be booked. You'll be through the end. You'll have like a short lull in January, and then the end of January through all the way through like the first week of March, you'll have a really big surge again for Valentine's Day, because you're going to, prior to Valentine's Day, you're going to be getting, should I ask this person out? Should I ask this person to be my Valentine? You know, is this person going to come back to me? Are we going to spend Valentine's Day together? Blah, blah, blah. And then after Valentine's Day, up to the first week of March, is what did this person think about me? Are we going to see each other again? Is this person going to call me? You know, they're going to want details about after the Valentine's Day date that they had, right? So seasonally, spring, at the two equinoxes, at spring and fall, seasonally are the most busy parts of the year. Summer is definitely a lull because kids are home, people are out doing vacation things. So during the summer, I typically put my price a little bit lower, on the lower end, you know, $3.99, $4.99, if I'm really desperate, $2.99. Just to get some new clients in, you know. But typically speaking, summer is generally pretty slow until kids go back to school, and then you are immediately dropped into Halloween, and you go pretty much straight all the way through until March, with a couple little lulls in there for Thanksgiving, and then the middle of January is kind of slow. Now let's also talk about month-to-month basis. So the first 3 weeks of a month are usually pretty busy. The first 2 weeks of the month are usually very busy. The last two kind of begin to taper off. So why? Because rent is due on the first of the month, right? Or mortgage is due, something is due, bills are due. So generally speaking, the last week of the month, that might be the time where it's going to be a little slow and you want to drop your price down a little bit, try to get some new clientele. So first 2 weeks of the month, good, busy. Last 2 weeks of the month, you're going to notice it's going to begin to taper off, mainly because bills are due and other things like that. So let's talk about hours of the day. So most of the companies are international, which means that they're based in marketing to an international base. So what you're going to kind of find is that the busiest times for, if you are in North America, then you're going to find the busiest times are typically after 7 p.m. EST. Oh, new mug, by the way. My grandmother, my mother-in-law got it for me for Christmas. Isn't that cute? So after 7 p.m., because that's when people in Europe are waking up, okay? That's their daytime. You're also going to notice that for your American or your North American clientele, what you're also going to notice is that from like 8 o'clock CST AM till about like 6 p.m. EST is going to be kind of dead because people are at work, typically speaking, and European people are sleeping. That's just kind of how it kind of works out. So your normal 9 to 5 kind of work day in North America, EST, that's going to be a little slow. So typically speaking, after about 6 or 7 p.m. EST is when, for North American people, that's when it's going to start picking up. And that'll pick up all the way up until probably 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you know. And then you might also, if you work overnight, you're going to catch the people that are coming home from their jobs in Europe, in Australia, and places like that. They're on the other side of the world, that are just getting home from their job, and they're probably feeding their kids, and then they're going to relax for like an hour or so, and then maybe they'll get on to have a psychic reading, okay? So typically speaking, overnights in North America are pretty much the best time to work. First couple weeks of the month and the spring and the fall equinoxes. So if you're going to invest any energy into working the hotlines, work on, and then day-wise, Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, always. Customer service, that's just customer service days. I think you gave sample prices. Oh yeah, it's in one of my workshops. Hi Jessica. Sweet, going to drink coffee and stay awake for tonight. I'll see you at the Psychic Circle. If I could just master midday naps, I know, right? Pamela says, I think it's their boldness and marketing to put themselves and getting out there. Those of us who are charged less give awesome dead-on readings too. Yeah, there's really nothing different between you. I mean, there is, and I don't want to say that there is a difference, but I mean, there's nothing stopping you from claiming that, right? No, I'm not giving a PDF out. This is just a free workshop, so I'm not going to be giving a PDF out for this. Adon says, also during the daytime, the lines are a lot more crowded. Yeah, because everybody works daytime, right? I mean, their kids are at school, things like that. So stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads. Pamela says, people are up in the middle of the night worrying about their questions. Yep, yep. Okay, I think we have time for a couple more. Let's see. What will get you fired? Just going to briefly touch upon this. Some lines are very strict about like medical, financial readings. So like pregnancy readings, or should I invest in XYZ, or should I take my stock? Should I invest in this stock, or, you know, what should I do with my bonds? Those are all no-nos. What's the other? The other thing is sharing your social media. I get asked this all the time, and I don't know why lines aren't better about giving information regarding this. But no, you cannot share your private website. You cannot share your social media. If a client asks you how they can find you online, the only answer that you are allowed to give is that I'm sorry, due to site policies or site regulations, I cannot provide you with that answer. The only way that you can get around this is if you use a name that you use in your regular business if you want to be found. But no, you cannot. If someone asks you for your social information, they will fire you so fast. And do not think that you will not get caught inevitably. The first time you might get a warning, so I wouldn't do it. But they actually have bots that will go through chat logs and phone logs, and they're searching for words like Facebook, Instagram, website, phone number, you know, things, address, things like that. Yep. Okay. How I do timelines. So I only read out, personally, I only read out about 3 months ahead of time, okay? So when I do timelines, I do not read majors, and I don't read pentacles, and I don't read court cards. All I read are wands, cups, and swords. Wands or fire, I read as days. So if I pull the 7 of wands, I might say 7 days or 1 week. If I pulled the 3 of cups, cups for me, water is months. I would say within 3 months if I pulled the 3 of cups. Let's see, if I pulled, let's say, swords for me is weeks, or air is weeks. So if I pulled the 7 of swords, I might say within about 7 weeks, or within about a month and a half, 2 months or so. I really refrain from giving timelines past a 3-month period because there's so much that can change in between there. That's just an easy way for me to do it. I also have a deck somewhere. There it is. It's called, this one, it's called Angel Answers by Doreen Virtue, and it has like yes, no, soon, not ready yet. Like, it has sort of like these other kinds of timeline answers that you could give in relation to that. But typically speaking, I will not really give a timeline past 3 months, and I only use wands, cups, and swords to do it. I just keep pulling. Amandine says, do you remove pentacles? I don't remove any cards. I'll just shuffle. I'll just shuffle the cards, and I'll pull through the middle. And let's say, so I got the Ace of Pentacles as the first card. I just toss it aside. Keep pulling. Got Death, toss it aside. The next card I got is the Two of Wands. So I would say, you know, within a couple of days, you should be hearing back from him within a couple of days if it's going to happen. And I always say, whenever it comes to predictions, I always say that it's within someone's heart to do something, but someone always has free will to make that decision for themselves. So even though I'm predicting within a couple of days, and even though the intention is there within that person's heart to carry out this action, free will exists, and, you know, it's up to them whether they're going to ultimately do it or not. Marlene says, I get people from India overnight. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Marlene. Pamela says, that's why I don't do more than 3 months either. I say kind of vague because things change. Yeah. Yep. That's what I do, personally. You find whatever works for you. How I do yes or no answers. I use a coin. I flip a coin. Very simple. Very simple. Flip a coin. You can go to flipacoin.com. You can have it up in your browser, or you can literally use a coin that you have and you could flip it. Or you could do a pendulum answer. But I found that pendulums kind of take a little while to kind of get going. And so I don't really use them that much anymore. See, it's agreeing with me right now. It's like, yes, we don't get used very often. So actually, I just prefer to flip a coin. Adon says, whenever I get a very quick timeline, I say 5 days, say within 2 weeks, still true. Yeah, so it gives, yeah, you're right. So Adon says he gives himself a little bit of like a buffer, which is great, you know. So if you get something that's like, but again, if you get something that's like too good to be true, like she hasn't heard from this person in 10 years, and she's just wondering if this person's ever going to reach out to her and when, you know, if you say 2 days from now, people are going to probably be like, really? That's too good to be true, you know, and they might not believe that. Say, you know, what I would say in that situation, I said, you know what, this person's really thinking about you. They do want to reach out to you. I see it could happen within the next couple days, but if you want to make this go faster, then you could reach out to them. What happens when you reach out to them, you know, and then it could go off on this own little other side kind of reading what would happen if I reached out to them and get them to stay on the line a little bit longer. Yeah, so Lynn says she uses pendulum for that. Yeah. For yes or no. So I just flip a coin, yes or no. Okay. Okay, now we're going to start to get to people's actual questions here. And I didn't include any names because I don't want to like embarrass anybody or anything like that. And if I say you, I'm not talking to you, like who asked the question. I'm just talking to like you, the people on the other side of the screen. Okay, so don't, if I say something, you know, and you don't necessarily agree with that, or it kind of like makes you upset or something like that, I'm not harping on you. I'm simply just referring to you as the people that are, you know, listening to this. Got it? Hi, Sue. Good to see you. What to put on a profile that doesn't lie but doesn't give you away as a total noob. Okay, so most cases what you're going to see is 3rd generation psychic, 20 years experience, blah, 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 this certification, that certification. What I can tell you is that if you are new and you don't have a lot of reading experience and you're like, well, I don't want to put, I've only been reading for 2 years because that may make me seem like a noob. In that case, I would simply just not put how long you've been reading, because the assumption, you have to think about the assumption on the other side of the screen. The assumption on the other side of the screen is that you know what you're doing and that you've been tested, because most psychic hotlines are going to say, we test all of our psychics, genuine psychics. You know, it's a marketing language that they use, whether that's true or not, you know. So the other person on the other line is going to assume that you already have the experience. So if you have been reading for 20 years, great, put 20 years experience. If you've only been reading for 2 years, you know, and you've only been reading for like a couple months professionally, just leave that out of it, okay? Now, regarding certifications and qualifications and things like that, I mean, it matters a little bit, but it really doesn't matter that much. Most people do not care where you went to school or what degrees you have or anything like that. All they really care is that you have the capability to answer their question, right? So if you are new, then I would say, go on the website, do some market research. Go look at their top advisors, the people that are constantly at the top of the list. Go look at their profile. Don't copy it, but go get inspiration from there, okay? And then, you know, talk about the things that you do know how to do very well. So instead of saying, well, I don't have a lot of experience and I'm kind of new at this, but I hope you give me a chance. You know, we don't want to say things like that. Instead, find the things that you are really, really good at, and or talk about your gifts. So if you don't have a lot of experience and you don't have a lot of experience to talk about, instead talk about the psychic gifts that you have and how that helps you in your readings, okay? So I hope that helps you, and I hope that answers your question. But I would definitely not say that you don't have a lot of experience or anything like that, and I would do some market research, see what other people are saying. When in doubt, talk about your psychic gifts. I say y'all too. Okay. How to refocus when you get annoyed by your regulars. Okay, so this happens a lot. So first decide if you want to keep them as a client. So, and I know there's like this, you know, energy that like we can't say no to people, or like we have to constantly be available to people that are not a good fit for us, and that's just not true. You can refuse to read for people, so yeah, you have to decide first. Make yourself a little box and a little path on, do I want to keep this person as a client? If the answer is yes, okay. So let's assume that the answer is yes. If the answer is no, then tell them that you don't feel you're a good fit. If there's a block button, then block them. End of story, right? Don't try to, if there's a block button like there is on Keen, then you don't have to sit here and try to justify to that person, okay? Nothing personal. You have better things to do. Obviously, this is not a good fit. You don't have to explain yourself. But let's assume that you want to keep this person as a client. So instead, if you want, go watch my 3 Ways to Diffuse Difficult Conversations with Clients webinar workshop that I did. That will give you a lot of tips and strategy on what to say to people when they start getting on your nerves, okay? So let's say, for example, that you have Brenda, and I don't think anybody here is named Brenda, so I'm using the name Brenda. Sorry, Brenda. Sorry, any Brenda who's listening right now. I'm not talking about you. But let's say you have Brenda. Brenda comes in. She's in your chat every day. She's like, I still haven't heard from what's-his-face. I'm still waiting for him to contact me. I'm still waiting for him to call me. Why hasn't he called me yet? What is he doing? And they want you to play Psychic Spy. Well, it's not the most fun reading in the world to do, but it is, income that's consistent and reliable. So instead, when you find yourself starting to get resentful or irritated, try to do a healthy version of like disassociation. Basically the bottom line is you care too much. And caring too much is not a problem in your business, because caring a lot means that you're not a sociopath. You're not a psychopath. I mean, you have ethics. You care about people. Caring is a good thing. But on the psychic hotlines, if you care too much about the people on the other end for the psychic hotlines, it's not a good use of your energy, because you have very little control over, the marketing the psychic hotline puts out, which is going to play into people's insecurities. All you have to do is go like your favorite hotlines on Facebook, and you can see their ads. You can see that they're playing into, when's he going to call, when's he going to come back. So many of you are like, it's one thing to be slightly annoyed, and have to do a reading. And I just answered you yesterday and the previous day about this, Brenda. Why are we having this conversation again? And at the root of that is a severe need to control, okay? And to redirect that anger. And there's a couple ways that I do that. So first, I ask myself, am I really annoyed at this person, or am I annoyed at this situation because it's triggering something within me? For example, I used to have regulars that would have husbands that were cheating on them. And they would come in and they would be like, is my husband cheating on me? Are there any new affairs and things like that? And they would want the scoop. They're like, did he talk to anybody this week, and things like that. When I was, working on the psychic hotlines a lot, I would get really insecure about that. I would get really annoyed, and I didn't quite know why. And then I would, get really insecure about it because I had confidence and self-esteem issues within my own marriage, and with, relationships that I've had in the past where there was cheating and things like that. And so I didn't realize this, but what that was doing was that annoyance that I felt at the questions was really something that was triggering an unhealed wound within me, where I needed to grow. I needed to grow as a person, because I would work on the psychic hotlines. I would listen to people talk about their cheating husbands all day, and then I would be a cold bitch to my husband, because I thought, well, all these other men are cheating, so surely this guy is cheating too. And I found myself actually going through his phone and trying to become some sort of detective and see if he's cheating on me, or these other things, and it made me really miserable, right? And so I had to, and then my husband kind of sat me down. He's like, you know what? We've never had problems until you started working for the psychic hotline. Do you need to quit? What is the problem here? And then that's when I kind of put 2 and 2 together, that I wasn't annoyed at the person and their circumstances. what I was annoyed at, what was being triggered within me, was these insecurities that I had that I didn't necessarily know that I had, that I was conscious of. But then when it finally like brought to my consciousness, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm transferring, and it's especially a problem when you're transferring that negativity onto your family members, onto your children. Maybe you snap at your kids because you had a bad client, or you think your husband's cheating on you because you deal with infidelity all day, and so it does have real world consequences and things like that. So that's one reason that I would get annoyed. Another reason I would get annoyed was when people would contact me without being able to make a decision for themselves. Like, they would become so reliant and so codependent on me for prediction that they couldn't do anything in their life without first consulting me. At first, and many of you can probably relate to this, at first that's very flattering, right? At first you're like, oh wow, this is awesome. This person is a regular client. They trust me. I'm building a rapport with this person. And then after, a couple of months, it starts to become like an issue of resentment. Like, why can't you do anything for yourself, right? That's another one of those annoyances that I had. And basically, what I did some inner work and some soul searching on was that what I realized, what was being triggered within me, what needed to be healed, was that I've always been a very independent person my entire life. I'm an only child. I grew up an only child. I have a half sister. We've never met, though we're friends on Facebook, and we interact. Hopefully one day we'll meet. But I grew up as an only child. I grew up in a single family household where my mom works 6-7 days a week. 12, 14-hour days, and so I just was alone, circumstantially. I grew up with the capacity to be by myself and to make executive decisions by myself. And so I've grown up as a very independent person who makes my own decisions. And so when this person kept coming in that they couldn't make any decisions on their own without first consulting me, that triggered within me some sort of shadow that I had, some sort of judgment that I had about people who couldn't make their own decisions. And so what I had to kind of realize is that not everybody was born into a situation like me, where I was born in a situation circumstance where I was able to be okay with being alone. I was okay with being able to entertain myself. I was okay with being able to decide when I needed to eat, when I needed to wash my clothes. I remember being 8 years old and washing my own clothes and cooking my own dinner, waiting for my mom to get home, and feeding her, at 8 years old. So what it really triggered with me, the annoyance is that I was unaccepting and I was kind of closed off emotionally and not compassionate to people that didn't grow up in that sort of environment and learn those skills for themselves, right? And so when you kind of understand why, the motive behind why people ask certain questions that they do, then you can kind of come in more of a empathetic, not just sympathetic, because sympathetic is like, oh, I'm sorry for you. It doesn't really, sympathetic is not understanding, and empathy is understanding. It's understanding sympathy. So what I try to do when people get annoyed is I try to understand why they would be acting this way, and I would definitely try to treat every new reading as a new experience. And how I do that is I practice what is called psychic amnesia. So a lot of people, a lot of professional readers, they keep notes on their clients, right? And they keep we talked about this, and we talked about this, and we talked about so-and-so, and things like that. I don't do any of that. I don't keep tabs on anyone. First of all, they're not paying me to do that, to sit down and write up notes of their session. There's no guarantee that they're going to come back. And while, you could argue that, yeah, it's nice to remember people and it's nice to be remembered and things like that, I actually don't do that. And because I don't do that, it actually, the codependent people I found tend to just not come back to me because I don't feed into that codependency. I don't keep notes on clients. I don't remember names. I don't remember birthdays or anything like that. When I am done with the reading, I'm done. You can ask me the next day and I would have no idea what I said to you. I would have no idea what the cards were pulled, and chances are I'm not going to remember what your question was. I don't retain that information because that's just going to take up too much of my aura. I don't want to be walking around as an empath with all of these people's life stories and narratives and details in my aura, because that's just going to bring me down. That's what's going to drain me personally. So I don't personally keep tabs on people, and what I found is that when I tend to, I'll say, I'm sorry. What I basically say is they'll say, do you remember when we talked about such and such? And I'll be like, and I'll say something like, I don't actually keep tabs on that. Can you remind me of the situation? And so the people that get annoyed at that, they just tend to not come back, right? Because they are looking for a codependent relationship to latch onto. When I say that I don't keep tabs on that, or I don't remember, you need to remind me, then the people that aren't codependent and the people that understand that I talk to 20, 30, 40, 50 people every single day, sometimes more, that they're not going to be attracted to me as a reader. Another thing I do too is I refocus. So I'm going to answer another question too that's kind of down the line, but like how do you not get drained by the psychic hotlines? So that kind of ties into this. I don't get drained because I don't make it my privilege to remember people's details. I just don't. I don't care. You know, unless we're talking, unless we're chatting and you're paying me per minute, that's the only time that I'm thinking about you. After the reading, I'm not thinking about what I said. I'm focused on the next person. I'm focused on what I need to do to move on with my day. Another thing too is to limit your exposure. So the psychic hotlines in general, like energy is your energy, your ability to you know, generate a lot of power in your energy to stay grounded and things like that is a muscle. Your psychic abilities are muscles, but your energy is also a muscle too, right? And so when you're starting out, maybe some of you will find that I can only log on for a couple hours at a time before I reach that point where I start getting irritated. If I start getting irritated, then I know that I need to log off and I need to go do something else. I need to refocus my energy. I need to distract myself with something that makes me happy. And then when I fix my energy, then I can come back, right? But if we're constantly in this mode that like we don't want to hop on the lines because it's draining or something like that, one, it's usually because you're caring too much, you're retaining too much information, you're overworking your energy. Your energy is just not strong enough yet, and that will come over time. Like if you would have told me 3 years ago that I would be talking to thousands of people every single day, like I would have laughed at you and said, no way, you know? But now I can host a group of almost 1,000 people pretty much effortlessly because my energetic muscles have been growing since I've been, you know, doing psychic development and things like that. So if you can only log on for a couple hours at a time, that's okay. That's all right. You know, maybe you have to do a couple hours here, take an hour or two off, go watch a show, go take a bath, go take a walk, go eat some food, go play with your puppies or your kitties or your animals, or go, you know, play with your kids, or go do something else so that you fix your energy, so you catch yourself before you start getting to that point where you're annoyed. You stop that, and then you don't train your brain so that you're looking forward to being annoyed. You're not expecting that you're going to be annoyed, right? So you catch yourself right at that point where people start getting irritating, and then you log off, you go find something else to do, and then you log on and do it all over again. Now, and then after a while, you will find that you can log on for like 5 or 6 hours or even 10 hours at a time, and you'll find that you're not as irritated as you once were. But it is a process. And if you are constantly working yourself to the point where you're irritated and annoyed and you begin to like resent the psychic hotlines, you're probably working too long of a shift at a time, and you're basically training your brain to hate the psychic hotlines because you're putting yourself in that situation, okay? So we really want to focus on positive reinforcement. So like I said, if you start getting to that point of annoyance, walk away, do something else, and then come back to it later. I'm reading the comments. Basically, for the people that are watching the replay, they're just talking about all of these crazy clients that they've had. I don't have enough time to read them all, but Oh, this is a good one. Kimberly says, I recently read for another reader who was having trouble enforcing boundaries with clients because they need her so much. And yeah, I could do a whole hour talk on that. I didn't say it, but it sounded like she was encouraging their dependency by thinking of them needing her in this way. Yeah, and that does happen, especially as an empath, especially as the helper, kind of archetype, where you, at first it's flattering, but then it becomes like your own worst nightmare, and you kind of have to like it. For a lot of the times when I've noticed this, is that when people become readers and they become the authority figure in a relationship sometimes for the first time in their life, it's very like, it gives you a lot of approval. It gives you a lot of validation of your power and your ability as a person. But, if you're too open to something like that, it can quickly become a situation where it becomes a nightmare. And that's where a lot of people kind of learn after a while. They become resentful of everybody being so dependent upon them, showering them with, praise and things like that. And then they kind of become resentful or maybe a little jaded about it because they have encouraged this codependent relationship, even though that's not what they originally wanted. But it's hard in the beginning to kind of differentiate between normal, healthy relationships and normal, healthy energy exchange, like how Charlene was talking about in her webinar, and codependent relationships. And if you're someone who has been in codependent relationships, or you're someone that has codependent relationships, it can be kind of hard to kind of discern between those two. Leonie says, I practice psychic amnesia too. It's very refreshing. Yeah. So, and especially if you're an empath. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is about being an empath on the line. Everything else we're going to have to come back to at a later date, because I need to go get some food and handle some things before I have to be at my last appointment for the day. So I'm going to talk about being an empath on the psychic hotlines, and that'll be the last thing that we talk about today. Okay? And then we'll do this again. We'll have a couple more sessions most likely, because I barely got to anything. Okay, let me find the question, because I thought it was really important. I want to talk about it. How can empaths protect their energy on the lines? I get exhausted dealing with so much energy. Okay, that kind of goes back to psychic amnesia, kind of what I was talking about. And a lot of us are empaths, and a lot of us, feel like we constantly have to protect ourselves. So I want to know, write me in the comment section, yes, or give me a heart or like or something, if you feel like before you get on the psychic hotlines, you have to put on this battle armor, or you have to do this elaborate ritual, or you have to meditate for 20 minutes or something like that. How many of you feel like that? How many of you feel like when you're logging into the psychic hotlines, you're almost going into battle? A lot of you probably identify that as being empathic, as being empaths. So here's the thing. Hi, Janet. Good to see you. Brad, let me see how I'm going to put this. Because this could be a whole nother topic. Okay, brand new empaths. Protection is important, but that's because you're learning about the dynamics of empathic relationships, and you're learning about psychic vampires, and you're learning about the relationship between narcissistic personality disorder and empaths, or you're learning about the link between people who are codependent and empaths and things like that. Okay, or the link between physical illness and absorbing too much stress and absorbing other people's emotions and things like that. Okay, so there is a little bit of protection that is helpful, but I kind of want to challenge people today, because I am also a recovering wide open empath, which may surprise you, because I probably come across as very guarded, very well-developed boundaries, things like that. But I am an empath nonetheless, and I've had to go through empathic rehab, more or less. Now, if you are doing elaborate rituals, if you are doing things that are taking up an unreasonable amount of time to protect you before you go on to the psychic hotlines. I really want to challenge you today to think about the chance that, you are prepared to, I consider everybody here who is ready to run a business as someone who has done some healing, okay? If you have done no healing and you're trying to start a business, good luck to you. But I really consider everybody here who is ready to help others in the management of their energy and to guide others spiritually, as people in this group or on YouTube who's listening to me right now as a replay, that you have done some sort of healing. You're on a healing path. You're on a path to recovery, right? I want you to think for a moment, what life could be like if instead of training your brain to thinking you're going into war every time you log on the psychic hotlines, and that you have to put on this battle armor, and you have to do a circle of protection and this elaborate ritual, and you have to light these candles and say this incantation, and you have to meditate. It's like, if it takes you an hour to do all of these things before you can log on to the lines, I want you to think about what this is doing to you on a physical level. Okay, so you think maybe you're protecting yourself spiritually, but what you're really doing is you're damaging yourself physically. And what I mean by that is that you are basically draining and emptying out your adrenals, your adrenal system in your body, your adrenal glands, because you are going in expecting the worst case scenario. And you're also of the belief that you are not inherently protected by your higher power, okay? So everybody here is protected by their higher power at all times. Guides, angels, ancestors, higher vibrational beings, whatever. We all have our own unique spirit team. Yes? They are all looking out for us all the time. Yes? There are things that we can do. We can imagine ourselves in a bubble of white light. We can imagine, putting on some etheric armor and things like that. But if it is taking you more than 5 or 10 minutes to do these protection rituals, then you're almost like feeding into the belief that you're not protected and that you're vulnerable, and that's just going to continue to validate the belief that you are unsafe, okay? So what I would like you to do is challenge that. Anytime you start to feel like I am unsafe, I need to protect myself, I would really love for you to challenge that idea, and to challenge the idea that as an empath, you're just walking around open, you're vulnerable, and anybody can come and attack you. That's simply not true. You can be a highly sensitive person who is also empathic, but it doesn't make you a vulnerable target, okay? It only makes you a vulnerable target in the very beginning, when you're not aware of what an empath is and you're walking around and you're, modeling these unhealthy relationships and traits, because you're simply unaware of that. You don't know any better. But if you are on a healing journey, if you've done any research into what it means to be empathic or energy exchange or anything like that, then you know that there are things that you can do, such as, and not just woo-woo things. I mean, there are woo-woo things that you can do, and there's crystals that you can get, like black tourmaline's great for, protection, and obsidian and clear quartz as a generator, and, you can set up a candle and stuff like that. You can do those things, but there are physical things that you can do as well. One thing is to develop your psychic abilities. I consider psychic ability development as a physical thing. I don't consider it a woo-woo thing, because for me, psychic abilities are very physical. And so that means joining a development program, right? Or doing psychic exercises with friends, building up that muscle. Psychic hotlines are a great way to do that. Physical exercise is another really great way to do that, to generate power. So basically what I'm getting at here is that if you replace the idea of thinking that you're vulnerable, that you're unprotected, that you're unsafe, and then turning that into pivoting that to a better feeling emotion, such as I am powerful, then you're going to find that you don't need these elaborate rituals. It's called mental magic. It's called thought form magic. You can also set up a thought form too. We've talked about this before in several of my trainings, where you can set up a little totem or a little amulet of some sort of protection thing that you can wear. And so you don't have to keep doing these rituals every single day. You just wear that thing when you are, logging onto the line, something like that, okay? So instead of saying I'm vulnerable, I'm unprotected, I'm a target, people are going to come for me, I can't control my empathic abilities, that is such a place of disempowerment that I don't want you to continue saying those things to yourself. I don't want you to continue believing those things because it's damaging you. It's really damaging you physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, okay? So there are, like other things that you can do to raise power, not just ground. Grounding is good. Learning how to ground is good. That's what I mean by grounding. That's what I mean by finding that point where it becomes sort of resentful to you, that you're reaching that point of annoyance, and then you log off, you refocus, you go do something else. That's grounding, okay? So you can ground. But another way to raise power is through physical exercise. If you do like Qigong or yoga or some sort of like balancing or physical body strength, like using your own body, any type of physical exercise, that is also going to help you raise power, okay? You can also get power from eating something. So before you go onto the lines, or maybe while you're on the lines, instead, maybe you have a healthy snack. Maybe you have like a bunch of bananas that are sitting on your desk, and every time you start to feel like drained, or you start to feel like you have a headache come on or something like that, you eat an apple, or you eat a banana, or you eat some nuts, or whatever trail mix or something that you have on your desk. So physical exercise is power generating. Eating something gives you power because it gives you energy, okay? So find things that give you energy. Maybe it's listening to your favorite kick-ass songs on YouTube playlist while you're waiting for clients to get to, your hotline, get to your chat box, or to ring your phone or something like that. So find things that actually empower you, to make you feel powerful, that don't feel like a chore, don't feel like an obligation, and don't feel like something you need to do to protect yourself. Find things that empower you. You don't always have to protect yourself. Does that make sense? Is anybody getting what I'm saying here? It might surprise everybody to know this, that I don't meditate, I don't do rituals, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't need to. That's because I have really focused on my self-confidence. I've focused on finding my own power, claiming my power. This whole thing with we need to protect ourselves all the time, it's a Band-Aid at best. It's a Band-Aid. Kimberly says, protection is a moment-to-moment thing for me. No need for a lot of pre-work. Adon says, the first 2 weeks, I suffered from over-empathing, and I've learned to touch the energy but not eat it and take it in. Right. I feel like my empathy is what helps me do the reading. I just need to make sure I don't carry it on afterwards, right? And one thing I do, Kimberly, Adon, you guys might like this, as I do the cancel, delete, clear. So after every reading, I'll say mentally to myself, cancel, delete, and clear. And so what that is, or I'll imagine like me and that person's aura, and I'll take a sword and I'll cut the cord that joins us. And that's very simple. That's pretty much all I need to do if I need to do something at all. But I either do cancel, like I'm canceling my subscription to their negativity. Delete, I'm deleting the information from my brain. Clear, I'm moving on to the next thing. I'm not thinking about that anymore, right? Charmaine says, my spiritual advisor told me bubble of white light. That's a very good one too. Yeah, and it's called making yourself the biggest energy of the room. And this is an exercise that you can actually practice on your own. Is you can imagine yourself and imagine a white bubble of light around you, and imagine and you can even do this physically. We've done this in the psychic circle, where you're physically taking your hands and you're pushing your energy outwards, and you're pushing it to the side, you're pushing it up, you're pushing it down, and focus on making that bubble bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can imagine it taking over your whole office, taking it over your house, taking it over your street. And you're going to find that point at which you can't expand anymore. That's your circle of protection that you have, right? It's just innately around you. If you watch someone walk into a room that has a lot of charisma, has a lot of influence, their bubble is humongous because they are projecting a lot of energy. But they, again, it's that psychic muscles, that energy muscle where you have to continually to work that, you know. And some people I work with, their bubbles are like really tiny, you know. And so over time, I tell them, okay, do this exercise almost every couple days for 5 minutes or so, and just focus on pushing your energy outwards. And as you do that, you will just naturally have a bigger energy without really having to work for it. It's like when you go to the gym so often, and it's like you go to the gym and you lift weights and things like that, and you're buff, and you don't have to work out as much as you did when you first started because you've already got that muscle, and all you have to do is maintain it. You don't have to build it up. Same kind of situation. Victim mentality. Yes. That's what it is. I mean, in the nicest way possible. I always think I'm stepping into my high vibe energy and I only attract the same clients. That's very good. That's very good. And if you have that mindset that you're only attracting the clients that are right for you, even the crappy clients turn into the right clients, right? Because you are so much in your faith in your higher power, your spirit team, and the fact that you are protected at all times, that's just your reality. Whether that is the reality that's happening or not, that is your reality, which is more important than the reality outside of what's happening. Martial arts. Anna says martial arts. Yes, that's a very good one too. Any type of body-mind coordinating type of exercise is very good for you. Kimberly says food is grounding. Yep, I usually, when I'm on the lines, I'll make myself, what I do is I make myself like a little fort, because I know I'm not going to leave for about 2 or 3 hours or so. So what I'll do is I'll grab like 3 or 4 water bottles, I'll grab myself some tea, I'll grab myself some snacks, I'll build like a pillow fort with my little laptop, and I'll just, I'll build a space that is physically safe for me and that I have everything I need. And then, it's very easy. It's very easy to do readings from that space. Pamela says, I don't do meditations or ritual either. And there's nothing wrong with people that need to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It just means that you are probably kind of new on your journey, and or you have other things in your environment that you have to counteract. So if you have a 9-to-5 job, you're probably going to need to meditate more than, people like me who do this as a full-time job. That's just kind of how it is. Or if you have an, unsupportive spouse, or you have, you just don't have a lot of support, period, you may need to rely on your spirit team a little bit more. Leonie says, I do cord cutting. Yeah, cut the cord. Oh, I love that you put that way for the cancel, clear, delete. My teacher told me about that years. Yep. Water, then carrots for crunching on. Yeah, try to choose a healthy snack, because it doesn't, I'm not going to sit here and preach anything. I'm a plus size lady, so I'm not going to say don't eat the cookies and the cupcakes. Eat whatever you need to eat to make yourself feel better. But if you can, try to balance it out with some healthy snacks, because the healthy snacks, the living food, the raw foods, the apples, the oranges, bananas, things like that, the living food has more energy to it than the cooked, processed, dead food. So that's the reason why I say, and it's healthier for you. If you're going to be mindlessly snacking, you might as well do it on some apple slices or something like that, right? Okay, guys, this has been a 2-hour workshop. We're going to have to do another one. I thank everybody for joining me. If I didn't get to your question, do not worry. Don't freak out. I will get to it eventually. We will host another session. Don't worry. But I hope I have given you guys a lot of good information today. So if you want, I will be taking more questions. If you go to the group and you type in heart-centered, hashtag heart-centered chat, or you use the tag for heart-centered chat, you can click on the tag. You will find the thread where you can continue to ask questions. Please feel free. Even if you've already asked a question, please feel free to put more questions in, and I will keep this in a file very safely. And hopefully we'll, maybe in a couple weeks, because next week I'm gonna be doing an unboxing next Friday, and then maybe the Friday after that I kind of have to look, but I will let you guys know when the next one is. And if you would do me this favor, is in the comment section below on this video, let me know what tip or trick you got the most out of today that really, really helped you. Because what I would like to do, based on your guys' answers, is create like a PDF for the group that has like, you know, the group's top 10 tips to surviving the psychic hotlines or something like that, which will be a free resource. So if you can help me with that, let me know, you know, what's been good for you, write just a sentence or two. I got, you know, this really helped me. And then we'll compile a list of tips and tricks, and then we'll have that for on hand for the group. Anna says, thank you. I was glad I was able to catch one of these live. Yeah, awesome. It was good to see you, Anna. All right, Psychic Circle people, I will see you tonight. I'm going to go eat and do some things, and then I'll see you guys in a couple hours. Bye.